You think this pain they shoved into your chest will break you? Nah, kid. Pain's not what breaks you. It's what builds you, brick by jagged brick. See, they thought they were smart, tearing you down, laughing while you fell. But what they don't know is, every cut, every scar they left behind, that's fuel. That's the fire that burns so hot it'll light up every dark corner they tried to bury you in. They'll regret it. Oh, they'll regret it in ways they can't even imagine. Not because you'll get back at them, no. Revenge is a fool's errand. They'll regret it because one day they'll look at you standing tall, unshakable, and realize they didn't destroy you. They created something they can't control. And that scares them more than anything else. You see, people like that, they thrive on power. They feed on control. They push you down, not because you're weak, but because they're scared. Scared of what you could become if you ever figured out that their words, their actions, none of it defines you. Let me tell you something, kid. The moment you stop caring about what they did, the moment their voices in your head get drowned out by your own, that's the moment you become untouchable. You've got to understand, life's a game, but not everyone plays fair. Some folks will cheat, lie, and steal just to stay on top. They'll see your kindness as weakness, your silence as surrender. But here's the trick. They don't know the strength it takes to stay quiet, to endure. They don't know that every time they knock you down, you're sharpening your edges. You're turning into something they can't handle. Let me give you an example. You ever seen a wolf that's been cornered? It doesn't whimper. It doesn't cry. It waits. It watches. And when the time comes, it fights like hell, with nothing to lose and everything to gain. That's what you're becoming. A wolf in a world of sheep. But don't let that make you bitter. Don't let their poison sink so deep that it turns you into one of them. See, people will try to tell you that forgiveness is strength. And maybe it is, but not the way they preach it. Forgiveness isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about cutting the chains they tied around your soul. It's about looking in the mirror and saying, what they did to me isn't my burden to carry anymore. They'll carry it, though. Oh, they'll carry it, whether they realize it or not. Every cruel word, every cold shoulder, it doesn't disappear. It lingers in the air around them, wraps itself around their necks, like a noose. And one day, when they're alone, when there's no one left to laugh at, no one left to belittle, they'll feel it. They'll feel the weight of what they did, and it'll haunt them. It'll haunt them more than it ever hurt you, because you'll be free. You'll have turned their hate into fuel, their rejection into resilience. Let me tell you a secret. The strongest people in this world, they're not the ones who've had it easy. They're the ones who've been broken, shattered, and left for dead. They're the ones who've dragged themselves out of the mud, piece by piece, and built something stronger, something unbreakable. But don't misunderstand me, kid. Strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up every damn time. It's about looking the world in the eye and saying, "Is that all you've got?" And trust me, they'll throw everything at you. They'll try to tear you down again and again. But every time they do, you'll get back up. And every time you get back up, you'll scare them a little more. You're not their victim. You're not their puppet. You're the fire they can't put out, the storm they can't predict. And one day when they look back, they'll realize that what they did to you wasn't your end. It was your beginning. You see, life's funny that way. The very thing they thought would break you becomes the thing that sets you free. It's ironic, isn't it? They tried to bury you, not realizing you were a seed. Don't waste your energy hating them. Don't waste your life plotting revenge or wishing things had been different. Instead, focus on yourself. Build something so incredible, so unshakable, that their insults, their betrayals, they become nothing but background noise. And when they come crawling back, and they will, don't give them the satisfaction of your anger. Give them your indifference. Let them see that they no longer have power over you. That's the ultimate revenge. That's how you win. Remember this: every scar tells a story, but it doesn't define you. Every tear you've cried, every sleepless night, it's all part of the process. You're not broken, kid. You're becoming. And one day, when you stand on top of the world, when you've turned every ounce of their hate into strength, you'll look back and realize that they didn't hurt you. Not really. They shaped you. So stand up, dust yourself off, look in the mirror and see what I see: a warrior, a survivor, a force to be reckoned with. Because what they did to you will haunt them more than it ever hurt you. And you'll be too busy rising to care. You think I'm just talking to fill the silence? No, I'm telling you what no one else will. I'm giving you the truth they're too scared to say out loud. This world, it doesn't care about fair. Fair's a bedtime story they tell you, so you sleep easy while they sharpen their knives in the dark. Fair's for fools who still think kindness will protect them. But here's the kicker: kindness can protect you, just not in the way you think. Kindness isn't about letting them walk all over you. It's about choosing your battles. It's about knowing that their hate doesn't have to live rent-free in your head. See, the strongest armor you can wear isn't anger. It's indifference. You let them shout, let them mock, let them throw their petty insults. Because the truth, they're not shouting at you. They're shouting at their own reflection. And don't think for a second that you owe them anything. Not an explanation, not forgiveness, not even your time. You owe yourself. You owe yourself the chance to rise above their noise, to build something so solid, so unshakable, that their words bounce off you like raindrops off steel. You want to know why they tried to break you? It wasn't because you were weak. It was because you were strong in ways they'll never understand. They saw your light, and instead of being inspired, they were threatened. So they lashed out. They tried to snuff you out. But what they didn't realize is the harder they hit, the brighter you'd burn. Let me tell you a story. There's this thing called kintsugi. It's a Japanese art form where they take broken pottery and repair it with gold. They don't try to hide the cracks. They don't pretend it was never broken. They highlight the scars. They turn the damage into something beautiful, something stronger than it ever was before. That's what you're becoming. A masterpiece, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. But don't get me wrong, it's not easy. It's not supposed to be. Every time you pick yourself up, it's going to hurt. Every step forward will feel like dragging chains behind you. But with every step, those chains will get lighter. With every step, you'll get stronger. Until one day, you'll turn around and realize those chains aren't holding you back anymore. They're just a memory. You're probably wondering, why me? Why did they choose me? I'll tell you why. Because you have something they don't. Call it strength. Call it resilience. Call it whatever you want. But you've got it, and they don't. And that scares them. People only attack what they fear or what they envy. And yeah, it's going to hurt. It's going to feel unfair. But you know what's worse? Wasting your life trying to make sense of their cruelty. Some people are just broken. They don't need a reason to hurt others. They just do. But that's their burden to carry, not yours. So here's what you do. You take that pain, that anger, that sadness, and you turn it into power. Not the kind of power they chase, the cheap, empty kind that fades as soon as the applause stops. I'm talking about real power, the kind that comes from knowing you've survived, from knowing that no matter what they throw at you, you'll keep going. And when you reach the top, and you will, don't waste your breath proving them wrong. Prove yourself right. Prove that you are always capable, always enough, no matter what they said or did. You see, kid, life isn't about being unbroken. It's about learning how to live with the cracks. It's about turning every scar into a badge of honor, every failure into a stepping stone. They wanted to break you? Fine. Let them think they succeeded. While they're busy celebrating your downfall, you'll be quietly rebuilding. And when they finally look up, they'll see you standing taller than ever. But here's the thing. They won't admit they were wrong. They won't say they're sorry. That's not how people like that work. So don't wait for an apology that'll never come. Don't waste your life hoping for closure. Create your own. You're not here to live for their approval, you're here to live for you. So stop letting their actions dictate your worth. Stop letting their words echo in your head. You're more than their opinions. You're more than their cruelty. And one day, when they're lying awake at night, haunted by the weight of their own actions, you'll be sleeping peacefully, because you'll know that their hate didn't destroy you. It built you. And that, kid, is the ultimate revenge. Are you gonna let them win? Or are you gonna take everything they threw at you and turn it into the foundation for something they can't touch, can't destroy? The choice is yours. But remember this: what they did to you will haunt them more than it ever hurt you. And you'll be too busy rising to care. Kid, the world doesn't tie things up with a pretty bow and call it a day. Life's messy, brutal, relentless. But that's what makes it worth living. You want meaning? You want purpose? Then stop waiting for it to show up at your doorstep. Go out there and take it. They thought they could strip you of everything, your dignity, your hope, your fire. But here's the thing about fire. It doesn't die easily. Even the smallest ember can grow into an inferno if you feed it. And you got the fuel, kid. Every tear you've shed, every betrayal you've endured, every night you've spent staring at the ceiling, wondering why, they're all fuel. Let me break it down for you. There are two kinds of people in this world: builders and destroyers. Builders take what they have, no matter how little, and create something with it. Destroyers, they take what they lack and try to tear it out of someone else. Guess which one you are? You've been building, even if you didn't realize it. Every time you got back up, every time you kept going when it felt like the weight of the world was crushing you, you were building, brick by brick, step by step. And now you've got a foundation stronger than anything they'll ever understand. But don't get comfortable. Don't think for a second that the fight is over. It's never over. Life will keep testing you, pushing you, trying to see how much you can take. And you'll keep answering, because that's who you are. That's what you do. You want a real example? Think about the mountains. They're massive, unyielding, seemingly unmovable. But they weren't always that way. They started as cracks in the earth, pushed up by forces so powerful, so relentless, that they had no choice but to rise. That's you. You're the mountain rising from the chaos, unyielding, unstoppable. And the people who tried to break you, they'll see it. Oh, they'll see it. And it'll eat away at them, slowly, like rust on metal. Because nothing haunts a person more than the realization that their worst couldn't destroy someone else's best. But let's be clear, this isn't about revenge. Revenge is a poison that eats you from the inside out. This is about freedom. Freedom from their control, their influence, their lies. You're not here to live in the shadow of what they did to you. You're here to cast your own light. And let me tell you something about light. It's not always gentle. Sometimes it's blinding, scorching, unforgiving. That's the kind of light you're meant to shine. The kind that forces people to see you for who you really are, whether they like it or not. Now, don't get me wrong, there will be days when it feels like the darkness is winning. Days when you want to give up, when the weight of it all feels too much. And on those days, you'll need to remember this. The darkness isn't your enemy, it's your ally. The darkness is where you've been forged, where you've grown, where you've learned to survive. It's not something to fear, it's something to embrace, because without it, the light means nothing. Without it, you wouldn't be who you are. You're not just surviving, you're evolving. Every scar is a lesson, every setback a stepping stone. And one day, you'll look back and realize that everything they did to hurt you only made you stronger. You'll see it in their eyes too, that flicker of regret, of fear, of realization. They'll know they didn't break you. They'll know they fueled you. And that, kid, is the sweetest victory of all. But let me warn you, when you start to rise, when you start to shine, they'll try to pull you back down. Not because they hate you, but because they hate themselves. They see in you everything they lack: courage, resilience, strength, and it terrifies them. Don't waste your time trying to make them understand. Don't waste your breath explaining yourself. You don't owe them that. The only person you owe anything to is yourself. And here's the truth. You're not here to prove them wrong. You're here to prove yourself right, to show yourself that you were always capable, always worthy, always enough. You think you've heard it all? Nah, kid. I've only just started. You're sitting there, replaying everything they said, everything they did. I can see it. The way it eats at you, claws at your insides. But let me tell you something. Those memories, those moments, they're not shackles, they're lessons. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a blade. The finest blade isn't born perfect. It's hammered, beaten, shaped by fire. You think that steel cries about the heat? No, it endures. And when it emerges, it's sharper, deadlier, unbreakable. That's you, kid. The fire they put you through. It wasn't your end. It was your forge. Now I know what you're thinking, but why me? Why did they choose me? I'll tell you why. Because you were strong enough to take it. Because they saw something in you that threatened them. And instead of stepping up, instead of facing their own demons, they chose to tear you down. It's cowardice, plain and simple. But you're no coward. You took their punches, their lies, their betrayal, and you're still here. You're still standing. And that scares them more than anything, because they know deep down that they could never survive what you've endured. You ever heard the saying, hurt people hurt people? It's true, but it's not an excuse. What they did to you wasn't about you. It was about them. Their insecurities, their failures, their emptiness. They lashed out because it's easier to break someone else than to fix themselves. But here's where you're different. You don't let your pain become poison. You don't let your scars define you. You take that pain and you use it. You turn it into strength, into fire, into a force so unstoppable that nothing, not their words, not their actions, not even their memories, can hold you back. Think about a seed. You bury it in the dirt, surround it with darkness. You'd think that's the end, right? But it's not. That seed uses the darkness, uses the dirt to grow. It pushes through inch by inch until it breaks the surface and reaches for the light. That's you. They tried to bury you. They thought the darkness would swallow you whole, but instead you're using it. You're growing. You're becoming. And one day you'll stand so tall, so strong, that the very people who tried to bury you will be forced to look up and see what you've become. But don't let that day be about them. Let it be about you, about the strength you found, the battles you fought, the victories you've won. You don't need their validation. You don't need their apologies. What you need is to look in the mirror and see someone you're proud of. And don't think for a second that this journey will be easy. It won't. There will be days when the weight feels unbearable, when the voices in your head scream louder than ever. But on those days, you need to remember this. You've already survived so much. You've already overcome so many battles. What's one more? The world isn't fair. It never has been. But fairness isn't what builds strength. Adversity does, struggle does, pain does. And you've had your fair share of all three. So don't waste it. Don't let it go to waste. Every tear you've cried, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt, it all adds up. It all shapes you, hardens you, refines you. And one day, you'll look back and realize that what they did to you didn't break you. It built you. But here's the thing. Strength isn't just about enduring. It's about growing. It's about taking what you've been through and using it to create something better for yourself, for the people you care about. And when they see you, when they see the life you've built, the person you've become, it'll hit them like a freight train. The realization that they didn't defeat you, that they didn't destroy you, that if anything, they made you stronger. But don't let that be your focus. Don't live your life for the sake of proving them wrong. Live it for the sake of proving yourself right. for the sake of becoming the person you were always meant to be. You're not here to survive. You're here to thrive, to rise above the ashes, to take every setback, every heartbreak, and turn it into fuel. Because what they did to you will haunt them more than it ever hurt you. And you'll be too busy living, too busy building, too busy becoming, to care. Remember this, kid. The greatest revenge isn't anger. It isn't hate. It's living well. It's building a life so full, so unshakable, that their worst becomes nothing but a footnote in your story. You know I'm right. You know that every single word I've said isn't just for show. It's the truth, the kind of truth that stings, the kind that doesn't go down easy. But you don't need easy, do you? Easy's for the weak. Easy's for the ones who give up at the first sign of trouble. You faced hell and made it through. You've been shattered into pieces and still found a way to hold yourself together. You've walked through fire, and even though it burned, you came out stronger. But let's get real for a second. That strength you've got, it's not just for you. It's for everyone who's ever been where you are, feeling what you felt, thinking they're alone. You're proof that they're not. You're proof that no matter how bad it gets, no matter how deep the darkness, there's always a way out. And don't think for a second that what they did to you was random. No, it was calculated. They saw your potential, saw what you could become, and it terrified them. So they did what scared people always do. They tried to tear you down. They thought that by breaking you, they could control you. But what they didn't realize is you don't break. You bend, sure, but you don't snap. Let me tell you a little secret about people like that. They're small, not physically, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally. They live in tiny worlds of their own making, built on fear and insecurity. They see someone like you, someone with fire in their eyes and steel in their soul, and they panic. They don't know how to handle it, so they try to extinguish it. They'll call you names, spread lies, try to make you doubt yourself. Because if they can't rise to your level, they'll do everything they can to drag you down to theirs. But you're not playing their game anymore. You've outgrown it. You've outgrown them. You've probably heard people say that time heals all wounds. That's a lie. Time doesn't heal anything. It's what you do with that time that matters. You can spend it wallowing, replaying their words, letting their actions define you. Or you can spend it building, growing, rising. Every second you waste on them is a second you could be using to become something greater, something they can't touch, can't even comprehend. Here's the thing about scars. They're permanent. They don't fade. They don't disappear. But they don't have to be ugly. They can be symbols of survival, of resilience, of strength. Each one tells a story, not of pain, but of triumph. So wear your scars like armor. Let them remind you of what you've been through, what you've overcome. Let them remind you that no matter how hard they tried to break you, they failed. And don't you dare give them the satisfaction of seeing you crumble. Don't you dare let them think, even for a second, that they've won, because they haven't. They never will. What they did to you, that's on them. How you respond, that's on you. So respond with strength. Respond with grace. Respond with power. You know, life has a funny way of balancing the scales. The people who tried to tear you down, they'll eventually face their own reckoning. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but it'll come. And when it does, they'll finally understand the weight of what they've done. But by then, you'll be so far ahead, so far removed from their toxicity, that it won't even matter. You'll have built a life so full, so rich, that their opinions, their actions, their very existence will be irrelevant. Think about that for a second. The ultimate victory isn't revenge. It isn't making them suffer. It's moving on. It's living a life so extraordinary that their attempts to bring you down seem laughable in hindsight. And trust me, that day will come. The day when you look back and realize that everything they did to you only made you stronger, tougher, wiser. The day when you thank them, not for their cruelty, but for the lessons you've learned, the strength you've gained. But don't mistake forgiveness for weakness. Forgiveness isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about freeing yourself. It's about cutting the chains they tried to wrap around your soul. And once you've done that, once you've let go of the anger, the bitterness, the pain, you'll find a freedom like nothing else. A freedom to live, to grow, to thrive. Let me ask you something. What do you want your legacy to be? Do you want to be remembered as someone who let their pain define them? Or as someone who rose above it, who turned their struggles into strength, their scars into stories? The choice is yours, kid. But I think you already know the answer. You've got this fire inside you, this untapped power that they'll never understand. So use it, harness it, let it drive you, not as a weapon, but as a tool to build, to grow, to rise. Because what they did to you will haunt them more than it ever hurt you. And you'll be too busy living to care. You made it this far, kid. Don't stop now. Don't let their actions, their failures, their poison keep you chained to the past. You've got too much ahead of you, too much potential, too much strength to waste it carrying their weight. Drop it. Leave it behind. It's not yours to bear anymore. Look at yourself. Really look. You're still here. After everything they threw at you, after all the ways they tried to break you, you're still standing. That's power. That's resilience. And that's something they'll never take away. So, hold on to it. Nurture it. Let it grow until it consumes every doubt, every fear, every lie they ever planted in your mind. One day, You'll be someone else's reason to keep going, someone else's light in the darkness. They'll look at you and see the proof that no matter how hard life gets, no matter how deep the scars run, it's possible to rise again. Be that proof. Be that light. Not for them, for you, because you deserve it. And when that day comes, when you're standing at the top of the mountain they said you'd never climb, you won't even think of them. You won't feel anger or hate or bitterness. You'll feel peace. Because you'll know in your heart that you didn't just survive, you thrived. You didn't just endure, you became unstoppable. Kid, build a life so loud, so unshakable, that their silence becomes deafening. Live so boldly, so unapologetically, that their whispers fade into nothingness. Because what they did to you, it'll haunt them more than it ever hurt you. And you'll be too busy living to notice.